Life is sweet. Let it sweep you off your feet.
Hi, it's Ali and Find Your Joy. Please remember to like and subscribe. Okay, so we are back with round two. Oh, look at that. I just did a little bing bing. I just put in a little fight reference. But anyways, oh, never mind. It's going to be lost on me. Anyways, we are back with the fabulously intriguing and incredibly interesting woman, Sarah Moras. And last time we were talking about Sarah and her background in UFC. She's a MMA fighter, was for 20 years, and now she's a coach. But wait, there's more. But there is so much more to Sarah. Sarah now has a relatively newish business, other than coaching, where she does beyond quantum energy healing and past life regression. And her business is called Infinity and Beyond Regression. Welcome back, Sarah.
Hi, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay, this is going to be awesome. I okay. I am very straightforward in saying I do not want there to be such a thing, but I still am very open to it. My girlfriend does Akashic Records and she does stuff with me. I'm like, okay, just we'll see. So I am so interested in how a person goes from being a UFC a fighter and then comes over to what maybe some might say is the woo and starts this, but I love that we've already kind of covered a little bit that there is a line. There's a direct line in the spiritual aspect of it. So come on, tell the girl,
Yeah.
how did this
Yeah,
happen?
it's definitely like the same but completely different at the same time.
Yeah.
I kind of like to go in like all in with different things. And with fighting, I was like so in with the physical side of it that I feel like I was maybe lacking a little bit of the mental and the spiritual side to it. So when I
Oh.
retired from fighting, I got I got into all the thinking and being the internal work, the spiritual side of things. I went through quite a bit of loss with my family and people that
Hmm.
I care about, which I think is how a lot of people get into this woo woo sort of stuff.
Yes, 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 yes.
But I think like there's a lot more to it all. And when you experience loss, you experience that they're not actually lost. And you see a lot of them around you everywhere you go when you pay attention to it. Um,
Yeah.
so that's part of my journey to get to where I got to. But yeah, it's also just like trusting the universe. You got to trust these signs, and when you get them, just run with them and see where it takes you.
Right.
So it took me a while to admit that this is what I wanted to do because it seemed so crazy and so far out from what I was doing before, even though what I was doing before was so far out from everyone else. I
That's
picked the extremes. Yeah.
Well, I love that you pay attention and then you honor what attracts you. That to me, that's what it's not even an extreme as much as you pay attention. That's what it suggests to me. You're a person who is open and is paying attention and then commits and goes in and does it. Like that's like your husband must be amazing too. That's what I'm just thinking because
He really is.
you will have observed and then taken notice of something, in this case of someone, and then when you went for it, you went all in. So that's just sort of what I see in you, right? In just every way that you describe things. So okay, so your very first introduction to this, um, how did it even any of this enter your mind to do this?
So like it's so funny because like I don't know if I can pinpoint an exact time. Like I think watching Montel Williams as a kid on TV where Sylvia Brown would come in and you'd hear all these
Oh, right,
stories, like that
right.
was maybe my first introduction into this whole sort of world.
Okay.
But then it just kind of, went on the back burner. And then it would kind of come up again in life. Like when I was in Las Vegas, I was sponsored by someone that used to date Sylvia Browne's daughter and took her hypnotherapy course. But I never got more into it. But it's like the universe is throwing these little like tidbits at me, to get me in line to understand it when the time comes. It sort of
Okay, so remind me, because in my mind, I can see Sylvia Browne's face, and
yeah.
so did she was she a medium? Like, was she a person? I'm trying to remember, was she a person that was like on TV and then she'd say like, oh, I'm getting something coming through. Like
Yeah.
did that, and did she also do past life regressions, or she was
Yeah.
mostly a medium?
Yeah, so I thought that she was just a medium too until I met this sponsor that said that he did this hypnotherapy that did past life regressions and things along those sort of lines with it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I think she's got like thousands of transcribed sessions and everything along this path as well.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was interesting.
Do you do mediumship stuff as well?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm still new to all this, but I do see that could be in my future. Just with how things are going. I find the more into it I get, the more I pay attention, just like anything with learning. I think it's something that anyone can learn how to do. Maybe I'm speaking from being naive about it, but I feel like the more I get into it, the more information I'm getting that just I have no way of explaining it, and then it plays out in my life. So
yeah,
it's just trying to pay more attention to it, asking for help with it all, and talking to anyone and everyone that can give me any more information.
right. And I think too, I was thinking about that, like with me, I don't know if it was you and I were talking about this. I would never consider myself a medium, or that I talk, like anything like that, right? I mean, I teach on developing intuition and listening, and I've done that all my life, and had dreams and like I've done that. But someone was said something to me about mediumship. I'm like, I'm not. But okay, so yes, other than when my Nana died when I was 11, she came to say goodbye to me after that. And um, when my friend died, he came and talked to me after. And when about my dad's first birthday after he died,
Yeah.
he came, and I mean, I was wide awake, and like really they would maybe they'll lock me up, and who knows, but like I saw my dad. And he had a song, and he gave it to me, and I've recorded it now. I've gone in,
Oh, wow.
I've gone in, and well, I wrote the song about the experience, but have the song in it. And it was really cool because I got to work with Steve Dawson, who's won like 3 or 4 Junos, and it was at
Wow.
Bryan Adams Studio, so in
Yeah.
Vancouver. So it was super cool to do it. But I've had
Wow.
like, my brother came to me, one of my brothers came to me the day after he died. Like I've had these experiences,
Mm-hmm.
but I would never consider myself a medium because I don't just wander around. Like it seems it's all very personal to me.
Yeah.
Like I don't, whereas what you're doing is with other people. So that might invite in paying attention. Why I said that big long thing. Oh yeah, what the hell was I talking about? Right. But why I said that is because what you're doing is inviting openings or curiosities, or however one would describe it, for other people.
Yeah.
So that might be a doorway. I
It
don't know.
it
I don't
is
know.
it is interesting. So like I didn't have any expectations going into it. I've read like a lot of Dolores Cannon books and Michael Newton and Brian Wise and all these people's books about past life regressions. And I come from like a bit of a more skeptical, logical sort of point of view with it all.
Yeah.
So I was like, it sounds so real and it resonates with me, but I need to see this for myself. So
Right.
so I took the course and started doing it, and it's it's been a mind fuck sort of journey.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the
right.
the stuff that I read in books, and if you read Dolores Cannon, it can get pretty out there.
Okay.
But
I have not read it, and like
no,
I have never read any book on it. I'm sort of like Like I said, I just don't want it to be true.
Yeah. Well,
But it's
so
not that I wouldn't do one of these things with you. It's not
yeah,
that. It's just
yeah.
I haven't really I haven't investigated that. I've been busy studying other things. Maybe one day I'll look at that, right?
There's
Okay,
not
so
enough time to deal with all the
to
things
do
that are so
everything.
interesting.
So you started reading the books and then you took the course, and so sort
Yeah.
of what is the Beyond Quantum Energy Healing, is that the course, or are they two separate courses?
Yeah, so it's called Beyond Quantum Healing is the course that I took, and
Okay.
that's with the past life regressions, but it's so much more than past lives, but I don't know how to describe it any other way because basically what we're doing is quieting the mind to let the subconscious mind through, just like a meditation, but then it's like a guided meditation where we just
Right.
focus on whatever you need to get out of the session. So we set intentions before, and sometimes people are curious about job choices in this life or relationships, or they have
Right.
two options to go down and what's it going to look like, or they're struggling in this life and they figure out why because of something that's happened in the past. Or there's so many different things. I've had people go for past like like their current life in the past. I've had people go to past lives on this earth, past lives on other planets, and even like lives not as humans or alien beings, as animals on this planet. If you read Dolores Cannon, she's had people go to being rocks and trees and plants and different things in
Interesting.
past lives. And everything has a
Everything
reason
has
to cry.
energy. The Bible says that even the rocks would cry out that everything has energy. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's many great spiritual teachings that I mean, I'm sure that someone who's would think that I'm bastardizing something about Christianity. I'm not. I'm just pointing out that
Yeah.
many of the great spiritual teachings talk about there's living energy in everything,
Yeah.
even rocks.
Yeah, everything has
So
energy.
it's
So,
yes, yeah.
yeah, I definitely believe that. And it was a little hard for me to wrap my head around at the beginning, but when you see like the life lessons about patience, maybe being a rock and just being in the moment, observing what's around you, different lessons you can get from anything and everything. And our goal here, from what it seems like, is to experience all aspects of everything.
Right.
So so it makes sense to me, although it was a lot to wrap my head around at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just I'm just listening for now. I'm trying to sort it all out about once we went into animals and rocks, I'm like, okay, well, it all has energy. So I guess if I'm going to think that it's possible for one thing,
Yeah.
but I think more, you said something about lives in this lifetime. So is that, are we talking about parallel things, or are we talking about someone going back and looking at what happened in this actual lifetime, in this actual parallel, or whatever we're talking, like this timeline? I guess that's what
Yeah.
I'm just learning about the timeline stuff. My niece just sent me something and I haven't
I know.
watched the whole thing yet. I'm like,
It,
I
it's a lot to wrap your mind around.
it is, except
Yeah.
okay, so I'm going to ask this. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you a little story, and then you can tell me, is this what we're
Yeah.
talking about? Okay, so but okay, so I don't sing so much anymore, but for many years I was a singer, and my brother Bruce, who passed away very suddenly 9 years ago, so he sends me a text one day, and he says, "Oh, I just heard Katie Lang's version of Hallelujah. I love it." Right? And I said, "Oh yes, I mean she's Katie Lang. She's the best, right? How can you, ha,
Yeah.
you know?" And he said, "Except I still like how you do it better." So there's
Oh,
a few things about that, right? First of all, it's Katie frickin' Lang, so nobody does it better. I'm not even sure if Leonard Cohen did it, but anyway, but I mean, she's just so amazing to me. But beyond that, is that I'd never sang the song, and I'll tell you how I know that. If I told you, remember that time you had that fight, and I'm going to pick a place, in Victoria. Have you ever had a fight in Victoria?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you right now that this really cool fight you had in Victoria, and you're going to say to me, I've never fought in Victoria. And you're going to know
Yeah.
that because you know where you had your fights. Well, I'm a
Yeah.
singer. I know what songs I sang. So I'd
Yeah,
never
for
sang this.
sure.
And
Yeah.
him and I went back and forth for the longest time on this, right? Okay, so forget all that. And then one day I was asked to sing it at a funeral. So I learned it and I was trying to send it to him. I'm like, okay, finally I sang this song. So I played it actually on my ukulele and I recorded it and it wouldn't send to him. It was so weird. I couldn't send it. So then that day I go to the funeral. As I'm walking in, the family's changed their mind. Will you sing Amazing Grace instead? Sure, I don't care. Like I don't,
Yeah.
I don't have a pony in the race, right? Like I don't,
Yeah.
however
Yeah.
it goes is fine by me. And the funeral ended up being the person that was giving the eulogy was a brother for his sister. And so my mind is traveling around. Wow, what did my that be like? And I'm doing all this stuff. At 3:15, it ends. My girlfriend comes over, says, "Are you okay if I visit for a while?" I said, "Yeah." So from 3:15 to 3:45, this will matter later. I'm sitting there, just sitting there thinking about, I wonder which one of us will die first. I wonder who'll do the eulogies. Man, that must be weird to do a eulogy for your brother or sister. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so later that night I go home. My phone rings. I see it's my brother. I have company for dinner. I text him and say, "Hey, got company for dinner. I'll either call you tomorrow." He never calls. We always text, or later if unless it's really important. And the phone rang right away again, and it was in my sister-in-law, and he had just died. And he died. They worked on him between 3:15 and 3:45. It was very
Wow.
bizarre. So
Yeah.
the next day he visited me, and all that kind of stuff happened, and he talked to me for a while. We did end up doing a bit of a funeral, and my sister-in-law says to me, "Would you sing Hallelujah at his funeral? Because that was his favorite song that you sang." I'm like, I have never sung. So here goes. So strap in, ladies and gentlemen. So I sing the song. Now, my other sister-in-law does. Anyways, we had it at this really beautiful place, Kirkland House in Ladner, and it was actually in the barn, which is beautiful. Like there's weddings and stuff there. And my sister-in-law brought their dog, and she had a torn ACL. She had braces on her legs, and she was in a bed beside their big Bouvier, gorgeous dog, Stella. Okay. So I'm singing this song and I'm trying not to lose myself. I'm just not lose my shit. So I'm
Yeah.
not looking, right?
Yeah.
I've done my brother's eulogy because I was asked to. I sang one of his favorite songs because I was asked to. And now I'm singing the second song and I'm not holding it together really well because, it's my brother. And well, I held it together, but inside I was like, oh man, I'm having a hard time.
Yeah.
So I closed my eyes. And so here's what I get told, that Stella, I start singing this song and the dog stands up, starts walking around me and going like standing and looking like right behind me. And she's doing this.
Wow.
Ear, she's doing this, and then she's sniffing all around behind me. And only that song. At no other time did she do this. There was not a person there that didn't say to me that Bruce was there. So here's what I'm going to tell you, what I believe to be the truth. Take it as you will. My brother somehow saw me sing at his funeral or celebration of life in some kind of a different timeline. Whether someone believes God showed him that, or he time traveled, or quantum, I don't know what.
Yeah.
But my brother could not speak of that moment without crying, though every time I talked to him.
Wow.
He wasn't that kind of guy. He was a big, gruff old biker. Like he
Yeah.
was, you know what I mean? And he was like, I mean, he'd changed a lot. By then he was a vegan and all kinds of stuff. But I'm just saying his path. So anyways, so I don't even know how I believe that. I just know that that was true. I know that somehow my brother was shown that
Yeah.
and saw that. So that's what I'm asking you. Is this what we're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna go, no, but nice story.
Yeah. Like, so I've had both where it goes to the current past life, but then all like the current life of someone in the past. But I've also had it go to different lives at the same time. So whether it's like the same time as their current life I've had happen, and also I've regressed people where we'll hit multiple past lives, and some of those timelines will actually overlap with each other too. So it's a little different. They're like completely two different lives rather than like one variation of the same life. But I do believe that that is also something. I just haven't had from my current memory that I can pull from right now in a session where it's parallel lives like that, where it's the same life but different. Although I've had that with the future. So whenever I've had a client ask about the future, no matter what their belief system is, when they're shown the future, they're shown multiple paths. And one will be more clear than the other.
Okay.
And maybe a second one will be more clear than the rest of them. But nothing's set in stone, and we have all these different paths that we can choose to go down.
Right.
So I think if you look at it all and you look at how time is maybe something that we just created on this earth. So if you can pick multiple future lives, or future events in the past that you go, I believe we can also change the past and have different past life experiences.
Right, because I mean, time is linear here.
Yes.
Time is we process as human beings, we process in a linear fashion. But it makes sense to me because I'm a person who believes in eternal things and eternal concepts, that it is, I don't know, a loop, or so I don't know what it is. I don't.
Yeah.
Who can understand all of this? It's. I mean, some people believe they understand it all, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? But
yeah.
But we can't know. I don't care how much we believe in something.
Yeah.
Nobody knows anything. Like,
I definitely get that. But yeah, I think that with every decision we make, an alternative version or world comes up where that possibility lives out, and we can choose which timeline we want to be on. But because time isn't what we perceive it, it can also, any future decisions can change past decisions, and we can jump between these different timelines. So he might have had a different past timeline than you, and you've joined together at this point, with his memories being different than yours. It's a lot to wrap your mind around and even to try and explain.
Yeah. So let's just say we were gonna. Okay, so if right now we were gonna do a past life thing, so how does that look? If someone says, you know, I can think of a zillion things that a zillion. That's probably an exaggeration. I can think of a few. A zillion is a lot. I don't know if you can count to a zillion. So I can't, it's not really a quantifiable statement. So I'm just gonna say I have several things that I get curious about. And I wonder, so I come to you and I say, okay, so I would like to do, and some people know a lot about this stuff already, and I'm gonna guess that the way you do it could even be different than how someone, like, it just works that way. So how does it look? So we're sitting down right now. We're about to start a session. What are we gonna? How does it look? What do we? And we do it by Zoom.
Yeah, we can do it by Zoom or in person, depending where you are.
Right.
So yeah, we can do it online, in person. Yeah.
However it works. Yeah.
Yeah, however it works. And then I always like to have like a bit of a conversation with someone to start off with.
Right.
So even just us talking to each other, I can pick up on things that I think would be interesting to maybe see what would come out of a session based on our conversation.
Right.
I'm
gonna put a pin in that one.
Yeah.
Okay, continue on.
Yeah, so generally people will have certain things that they're interested in figuring out. So we'll talk about intentions for the session. If they're struggling with something in life, whether it's like I was saying before, like maybe should I take this new job, or life's not fulfilling, what's my life purpose? Do I have guides? What are their names if I have guides? What have my past lives been? What traumas have I taken from past lives that's still connected to my life now? It could
Was
be
I
so
Hitler before and I'm just working that all off right now? Is that what
right.
happened here?
Yeah. So all of these things are like questions that people have. And like
Yeah.
sometimes I'll have my own questions for them too with how we've been talking.
Right.
But I'll generally talk to them about it beforehand rather than throwing them for a loop.
Right, right.
But yeah, so it depends on whatever people are interested in figuring out, getting some insight and some answers to, and we'll write it down and we'll write it down in their words. So I'll listen to them and I'll take notes and I'll try to get it as close to what they're saying so that it's in their words, but then we'll review it and change it however much they want so that it resonates with them.
Okay.
And then I do a little bit of a relaxation and we speak our intentions into the water for the session. We both have a glass of water and we speak the intentions. So I'll reread their intentions to them in short form so that they can remember exactly what's to be said and they repeat it after me. And then we drink some of the water. You don't chug it all generally unless you're really thirsty, but we'll drink it like after the session and throughout the rest of the day. And then we get into the session. So the session starts with an induction where it's like a guided meditation where I'm just relaxing you, getting you sort of in the zone to visualize, and we call for like my whole spirit team and your whole spirit team and higher self to participate in the journey, and we ask for only like the highest, most positive beings to come help us with the journey. So we're never really expecting anything other than something that's going to be positive for their life. So a lot of people are
Right.
scared that they're going to find out all this stuff and it's going to harm them. That's not the intention going into the session, and it hasn't
Right.
happened that way. So
Right. I more want to find out that I'm rich and where I hid the money.
yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry. What a dork. Okay, so
Maybe we
you
could
said,
see.
pardon?
We could see.
Yeah,
You
wouldn't
have
that
no
be?
idea,
Oh my
right?
gosh, that would
Who
be
am I to say
hilarious.
anything?
That would be hilarious. So there's two questions from something you said that I don't want to forget to ask.
Yeah.
One is you said that when you're talking to a person, first of all, there's things that are sort of coming. So do you mean in that, do you mean you're getting glimpses of things, or is this where you're talking about maybe mediumship is starting? And then the other one's going to be about the water, but we can go for this one first.
Okay. So when I was talking about that, I didn't really mean like that, but I just mean like people sometimes don't even realize what they're curious about. So sometimes they're
Ah,
curious about different things. But
right.
but tapping into the mediumship stuff before I do a session, I always try to like calm my mind and do a bit of a meditation beforehand and just listen to whatever messages come towards me.
Okay.
And so often I've had messages come through that make no sense to me, and I'll just write it down or make a mental note of it, and then it becomes maybe even like the key thing to the session, which is just wild because it won't even have anything to do with the session that I've done. Like I did one where beforehand I just had like apple tree come to my head, and I was like, what the fuck is apple tree coming to my head? And the whole session was based around an apple tree.
Oh, you didn't speak this out to the person.
No, I didn't say anything. I just kept it to my mind. Like, and I've never had a session about an apple tree before or after that. Um, but yeah,
Interesting,
the
but
whole
it
session
makes
was
sense.
about it and it represented something else, and
It's all energy. It just, I mean, it's all energy and it just floats around and does what it does. It holds thoughts and feelings and words, and energy is just magnificent.
yeah. So that that trips me out when those things happen. But I've had
Yeah.
like I've even done sessions where I had a feeling that a certain person and an animal would come through in the session, and talking to them, setting the intentions. They didn't mention anything about this person coming through, this animal coming through, nothing about it. And I didn't guide it in any sort of way to have that come through. And yet both those things happened in the session.
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they start because the person is the one who's telling you what's coming through, not you, right? You're not.
Yeah. So I'll
So,
be like, what do you see around you? How do you feel? I'm asking open-ended questions. I'm not trying to dictate where anything's
right.
supposed to
What
go.
about that apple tree over there? You're right. It's
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, where are you? I'm like, I see an apple tree in front of me. I'm like, what? Like,
come on.
so I mean, like, I'm still so new to it all. I don't understand like I can't interpret it. I don't understand all of that. And I think that comes with practice. But I do see how I could get from where I am now to somewhere else with these experiences happening.
Right. Well, the thing that I love about when somebody is new-ish, right? Because what, you've been into it for 5 years or something like that, or two
Actually,
or
just a year, but I've been
a
like
year.
reading about it for about
Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So
Yeah.
it's all that study matters, right?
Yeah.
It's like any other post-secondary education that we take. I mean, there's
Yeah.
the course that we take, and then there's all that. I started doing sound therapy. I was doing music for 30 years before that, right? So
Yeah.
it's transferable, right? It's
Yeah.
it's all of
For
those things.
sure.
Um, for crying out loud. So anyway, so yeah, it's just so interesting that, oh, that's what I was going to say was that the newness, what I think that a person that has newness and a fresh eye brings still a curiosity, because sometimes, and not to take away from a seasoned person or all of those things, but it's kind of like, I remember my doctor who was really odd. He retired a few years back, and I have a new doctor, and she was like, still has that fresh out of the factory smell, like just a brand new doctor. And so there was something that he brought was that he had seen so much, and
Mhm.
he knew a lot of things kind of going into it. But then he said to me, I like for a younger, newer doctor to look at things, he said, because they don't have the
Yeah.
assuming it's going to be that. He said,
Yeah.
I'm going to always search and look, but there are times when I've seen something so often, I don't want to, I don't want to think it's going to be that because I think it's going to be that because I've seen it be that so many times. And
Yeah.
I think that your curiosity in all of this and your excitement and your openness, as well as that you've studied it, I think that would probably have uh, just that would bring I don't know, a fresh eye, a way to it that might be really, really interesting. I guess we'll just have to see and see
Yeah.
what you think 5 years from now and 10 years from now.
Yeah. For sure. And I think like it also like depends on the session too a lot of times because you're never going to get shown anything that you're not ready to experience or hear.
Oh,
So if you're not open to these concepts about time not being real or past lives or spirit guides, like they're probably not going to come through in that sort of way, but they'll come through in a way that makes sense to you and to
right.
your level of understanding. So from my point of view is sometimes people are more advanced than I am and have more knowledge, and that's always like fun for me to be open and figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
Um, which is fascinating. And then a lot of people are maybe just starting their spiritual journey, and it's interesting to see how they expand with it all. But yeah, for me, I try to take it from how I was as a coach, how I learned martial arts, how it all came to be, and how
Yeah.
it just, it's repetition and practice. And it's always looking how can I be better? What can I learn from this session to make the next session better? What can I tap into with this sort of energy and see what they need to do and how I can make it the best for them? But I also just like when I do my meditation, I ask for my guides and my higher self to come in and to help guide me because I'm still new at this. And I just have to trust that what comes to me is what's meant for the person in front of me. And that's how I
Right.
try to go about it and try to like maybe alleviate some of the pressure that, if something's meant to happen, they'll either be shown it without me, like they'll get what they need out of it, and hopefully they help me guide them in the way that they need so that they can
Right.
get the most out of the experience.
That's good. You know what, when you're just as you're talking, what it's I don't know, what it's bringing to me right now is there is a way that athletes see something that I don't think that, and especially a person who's like a very serious, like your level of athlete. Um, you're so okay with not being the top dog. You're so okay with being part of a learning process all the time, always getting better, always looking. And I don't know, and I could be wrong here, but I noticed like our granddaughter, right? She's 21. She's an
Yeah.
athlete, right? She's been an athlete since she's really young. She's been in team sports, specifically fast pitch, like, and at a very high level, did it for a long time. And I just see how especially when talking about sports, the way that, because I kind of can bring this sort of Nana approach to it, like, you know what I mean? And she's like, oh no. But she's just got this really, and my son too is an athlete, has this very clear approach, always wanting to learn more, doesn't need to have the answers, very open to a new way of seeing things. The only thing that I think I probably ever taught her was as she was young and coming up, she, like a lot of athletes, like a lot of human beings, but I really see it in athletes being hard on themselves when they make a mistake.
Yeah.
And so I used to always say to her, hey, and then she always would know what that mean because I would say to her after, you're not being mean to my granddaughter, are you? Because like I don't take that very well. People who are mean to my granddaughter, speaking
Yeah.
to her, don't be mean to
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
right? So I'd say, then she got to know just anywhere she was. Like, you're not being mean to her, are you? But there's a way. So even when you're saying this, that you could join with the person who's been doing it longer than you and do their reading, and you'd be both teammates, learning
Yeah.
from each other, doing this thing together. Well, I think that is something that's a little bit unique to athletes. I don't know if that's correct, but it's just my observation, correct or not.
Yeah.
Right.
It could be. Yeah. I think everyone wants to do well at things.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people have struggled with failure is not the right word, but how many times you have to do something in order
Yes.
to get better at it, to do
Yes.
better with it. Like one of the sayings we say with jiu-jitsu and with fighting, and I'm sure it's translatable to everything, is 10,000 reps makes you an expert.
Yeah.
So, did you hear me? Sorry? Yeah.
Yes, I was just going, yeah, I like that. I
Okay.
like
Yeah.
that a
I thought you
lot.
were leaning in because you didn't quite hear me.
No,
But yeah.
yeah, I was just it was my exclamation point to your sentence.
Yeah.
Yes.
So 10,000 reps, right? That's a lot of practice. That takes a lot of time to become an expert at something. And the only way to become an expert at it is to analyze everything that you do and see how can I do this better? How can I do this better? How
Yeah.
can I get better at it and get the reps in and get that practice in and know that knowing where you are on it. And that can also be hard for me and for everyone, especially when I've made it to the top. I have high expectations with everything I do, but I also need to remind myself, as many others do, that it takes practice, it takes reps, it takes learning and learning through failure, learning through mistakes. And that's the only way that you're going to get better. If you wait until you're perfect, you're never going to get there.
Right. And you'll never actually leap out and do it. Hey, when I used to sing, I used to, anytime there was any way that I could take a recording of it, and I would take it raw off the floor. So it was not pretty. It's not,
Yeah.
no effects on the voice, no nothing. So if the band played all night and there was a way for me to record it, I did, and I listened to it. And it was brutal because I got to hear if my voice went off. I got to hear if I went off in this thing, doodly doodly, thinking, oh, that was really cool. Go, oh, no, that wasn't.
Yeah.
That was a bad idea. But I
Yeah.
but I grew from that. People would say, "How can you do that? That's not even what you sound like. It's raw, so it's not even
Yeah.
how it sounds on the mic." I said, "Because that's only I want it raw.
Yeah.
I want to know what my voice sound, without reverb or whatever on it. I want to just hear it. I want to know
Yeah.
how that really was." So it makes sense to me that just doing that, it's it's just about trying to be my best. It has nothing to do with anyone else on the planet.
No,
This
yeah.
is how do I get to be better at what I'm doing? And I just think it's so interesting to me that you bring these like 20 years of such a disciplined activity and sport and lifestyle. And then it's in this place that is going to, and I'm guessing it requires the discipline, but I'm guessing the more I'm talking to you, fighting requires more letting things be what they are than me as an observer would have ever imagined.
Yeah. There's a lot to it. And like even one of the ways that I always practice techniques was I do it 3 times, thinking through every single move, every single step. And then the fourth time I'd see how my body remembers it. Because sometimes you get rocked, your mind's not able to think of all these things, plus there's so much getting thrown at you. I want to see how my body's going to react and remember all these things. So I practiced 3 times, like I said, thinking about it all and then seeing how my body remembered it. And eventually my body remembered it almost perfectly every single time after that. Obviously, perfectly is an exaggeration. You're always going to get better, but then I'd think of, oh, I missed this little aspect or this little aspect. But then you get into this flow with it, which is just like we talk with spirituality and meditation and all these things, is there's a flow to it. And you just let go of that conscious mind and trust your subconscious with it all. So that's how I gear most of my training. I I trust myself that I could see the openings rather than
Yeah.
having to think about them. And that's how I went about my fight career. My husband's very different with how he thinks about it. So I guess everyone's different, but a lot of people just trust that their body's going to react the way that they've trained it to react.
Right. Interest. And then so this comes through with it. And then I guess ultimately the point of that, right, is that we get to a place that we just let it be. And
Yeah.
if it requires direction, then we do that. And the same with infinity and beyond.
Yeah.
Um, you're spending your time, so you've done the work as much as you can do to this date. You can't
Yeah.
have more experience than you have. It's just what it is. Like that's how that's going to go. And then you spend time in meditation and with intentions before you meet with the person. And then you meet with the person and you're chatting. I'm meaning this sort of as a question. I'm trying to make
Yeah.
sure I'm
Yeah.
understanding it all. You're
Yeah.
meeting, and
Sounds
then
right.
you're observing, you're open, you're seeing whatever's happening there. And then now we get to this part, the water. So you're not together, so the water is different. Like what is the water about?
Yeah. So it's part of what they said with the course. And I coming from my background, I was like, this seems like bullshit. But
Yeah.
you know, like I always try to look at things too, like whether it's bullshit or not, what's the harm versus the benefit, and
Right.
is it worth the risk?
Yeah.
Everything with fighting's about the risk, right? So if we speak our intentions into water and we drink it, what's the risk with that compared to what's the reward if it actually does help with setting the intention?
Speaking into the water.
Yeah. So we speak it
Oh,
into the water. Water is a living thing. Our body's made up of however large percentage is water.
yes.
There's scientific studies where you talk to water and you say positive things and it formulates beautiful patterns, and you speak negatively and it's
Yes.
a collective mess, like
In
so.
my course, I took a course on this 20 years ago, and
Yeah,
in my course, it's one of the little things. It's also in another course that I took when I just did this other thing, and you're talking about Dr. Emoto.
yeah,
And as soon as you did that, as soon as I was like, "Oh, the water. You're
yeah,
speaking the intention into the water and then putting it back into us.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm down with the water now
Yeah,
because water's because I first got turned on to this whole or turned on, I first was introduced to Dr. Emoto like I said about 20 when he very first came out. I just happened to take a course through someone about intuition and listening and hearing God and all these kinds of things, and this person, part of their course was taught on this guy.
yeah, Wow.
And then it got me so interested in it. So I just started
Yeah.
more and more. And then I took another course and then another course. And then in my sound course, there was stuff about this too. So I'm like, oh, this is okay. Now it's making sense. I love the
Yeah.
crossovers here. It's just,
Yeah.
it's the energy that water holds. So, okay. Then,
Yeah.
so I love it that you're like, okay, it might be bullshit, but I'm just going to do it anyways. And then it starts to all unfold.
Yeah. So basically every
Sorry, I
session
just took off with that.
yeah, no, it's great because it's to a lot of people it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Where it seems a little out there, even to me, it seemed a little out there, but I'm like, what are the risks? The risks are I'm more hydrated afterwards. Like I can deal with that,
Yeah, yeah.
like the risk is maybe I have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the session. Who cares? We can do that. You can go to the bathroom in the middle of a session,
That's
come
right.
back, and we'll pick up right where you left
That's
off. There's
right.
no issues with that. So the risk to reward, I'd say like the reward outshines the risk like indefinitely, right? So
Okay, I'll drink some water just thinking about it.
yeah, yeah. So where's the harm in it? So yeah, and
I
then you look
love
at
it.
science, and science kind of backs it up too in a lot of ways. I know.
Science absolutely backs up anything that we would stuff with water is the we haven't even scratched the surface yet
Yeah,
with what finding out what science is starting to understand about water and things like that. But so that's really interesting. So, okay, so then you drink the water. So now you've done your prep and you've met with the person and you've observed and been open to whatever, and then you've spoken intentions into the water, and then you drink some of the water, and and then you do a meditation with them so that they're sort of in a bit of an altered state or
yeah,
whatever, like just like you would with
yeah.
hypnosis or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. So it uses elements of hypnosis. It's very similar along those lines, except I'd say it's a little more on the spiritual side than the clinical sort of side of it.
Right, right.
So we're talking about calling in like our higher selves and our spirit teams rather than just like on the count of three, you're not going to remember this or that,
Yeah.
like,
You're not going to get me to
or
quack.
you're going to get deep. Yeah, you're going to go deeper into it when I say three. Like, so it's a little different than that. It's more like a guided meditation where we're really playing on your imagination and just trusting your imagination and whatever comes to you. And then we explore why it came to you. Because it often doesn't make sense at the beginning, but at the end of a session, it always loops around or you find the insight and the reason why that was shown to you. And it's just paying attention to it.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder what even is imagination? Where does it come from? And so many people are like, well, this could have just been my imagination with all of this. And it's like, it very well could be, but what is your imagination and where is that coming from? Where are these thoughts coming from? Um, and what's the importance? Are you getting something out of it? And then the risk to reward. Is this detrimental to you or is there a reward to it? And what's the risk of either of those happening? And, you know, so far from the feedback that I've gotten from people is it's all been very positive. It's been life changing in a lot of ways, or just giving them a different perspective of how things are or could be.
Right. Oh, that's really fascinating. So people would so again for our listeners, we'll have all of Sarah's contact information and all of that stuff will be on the show notes. So you'll be able to seek her out, whether you are someone who watched her fight in Abu Dhabi and now you'd like to do a past life regression and you're listening from there. Come on over. Like
Yeah.
you can do it through Zoom. I mean, it's all so easy now. Wherever maybe you're somebody who saw her fight when she was in England. I don't know, but you could these things everything, the whole world is so opened up now. I'm glad
Yeah.
that I knew about Zoom before COVID because I didn't have to learn that. Like I'd already been
Oh,
using
yeah.
some of that stuff, but it's just opened up everything for people. And so and especially energetic work is really quite simple to do online.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I know a lot of people were like, how does that work online? But even when you look at science now with like quantum entanglement and stuff,
Yes.
two particles are connected and however far distance, you know, like, and it's instantaneous. So
Yeah, it's
same with us and same with energy, and we're all
I love that
connected.
you're saying this. This is all the stuff that I've been doing lately. Oh, that's awesome. Well, this has just been great. The time flies when I'm talking to you. Oh my gosh, it's just
Yeah.
I love all this stuff, and I love how it all works together. It's just very interesting to me. You're very interesting to
Yeah.
me. And
Well, thank you. And you're very interesting too, and such a great host. Like,
oh, well,
these
thanks.
conversations can be difficult. I've done a lot of interviews, and some of them can be very challenging.
Oh,
And
okay.
this has been a delight the whole time.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yay! That's awesome. So before we finish off here, is there anything that did I miss? I probably missed lots of things, but is there anything that I missed? Is there anything that you'd like to share with anybody before we sign off for this time? Is there anything that's maybe they need to know?
I think we covered a lot of it. I guess if people have questions, then we'll figure out. So if you have questions about anything, leave them in comments or message one of us, and we'll try to get back to you and maybe do another one of these, answering some of the questions.
That would be a great idea. That would be awesome. I'm open.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. Thanks so much for coming and hanging out with us. I'm just so glad I'm now glad that I went to the wellness. Well, no, now, I mean, I'm very glad that I went, and I feel very blessed that I was accidentally put across from you. It was just like, everything was like so perfect. So I'm just really glad, and I appreciate that. So
Yeah.
thanks for
No,
coming
I
and hanging out.
appreciate it too. And also, like, a funny little side note with that is when we got sent the floor plan, my table wasn't there. It was supposed to be beside me facing the other direction. So I wouldn't have been there, but it changed like when I showed up there. So, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
the way the
Oh,
world works.
well,
Eh?
I'm very, very glad then. I'm very glad. I didn't have I didn't know where I was going. I didn't receive a plan, so
Oh, okay.
I'm glad how it
Yeah.
worked out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's so
it worked
funny
very
how it
well.
all works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Sarah. And to our listeners, thanks for coming and hanging out with us. Contact Sarah. All her contact information will be there. Go and find out. Just drink some water and go back and forward or wherever you want to and figure this out. It's going to be awesome because at minimum, any time spent with Sarah is time well spent. So, yeah. So this is Allie. Find your joy. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you found a piece of your joy in this episode, I would love to hear about what came up for you so that we can continue to grow the impact of this show. Thanks again. See you soon. And remember, find your joy.